of these written texts are published. Others are until now kept in different institutions' archives or family closets. Amazingly, until recently, you may notice that these kind of primary sources, that I will detail later in my presentation, are a neglected genre in Armenian genocide studies. And another thing, my paper of today is also based on two personal academic experiences, or more precisely, it is based on what I read or what I learned during these two experiences. The first one is a book project. I hope that it will be published this year or next year. It's about two diaries, or two Armenians, deported Armenians from the town of Aintab. They were deported together in Syria, more precisely in Hama, and later in Salamiya, or Salamiya later to Hama. So they were in the same geographical area, and they kept diaries. And what I'm trying to do in this book project is to reconstruct the daily life of two ordinary Armenian deportees, what was the strategies that they adopted to survive, the food prices, the economic conditions, the environment of the survivors, the extreme conditions, so the description of the reconstruction of this environment, and which concessions they made in order to survive or not to survive, because many other family members died of these two persons. One of them is a priest. I forgot the name of my diarist, Tachjian, of course, and the other is he was at the last year of his school, and his name is Vahé. So they were deported with their family, and they kept diaries during their deportation. And so it was during my work on these two diaries that I was confronted to the issue of the non-use in genocide studies of some amazing primary sources in Armenia. And the second experience is a project that Anton presented now, and this started as a team project in Berlin in 2010. It is called Houshamadyan, which is also the name of the website, where we try to reconstruct Ottoman Armenian life, memory, social milieu, by studying local histories in its cities, towns, and villages where Armenians lived until 1915. Indeed, it is a vast project. At the start of the project, we did know that there were very important Armenian sources on this issue. But until today, each time that when we concentrate on ourselves or our researchers on one specific area, region, town, or village inhabited once by Armenians, then we are astonished to find new sources, published sources, on this specific topic. And I think that all of you will agree that the deportees insider's perspective is likewise indispensable in genocide studies, since it enables us to understand and study the influences at work in a given social structure, the individual strategies deployed in it, and many other details of the rapid transformation of a human life environment. And we can find this kind of perspective in the victims' memoirs, letters, diaries, all being part of the self-narrative genre. Nevertheless, researching my recent study on these two diaries from Aintab showed just how badly neglected a genre, the diary or the memoirs, has been in the study of the Armenian genocide. There are several deportees who kept diaries. I mean, many followed the example of Tachjian and Vahé. Among these diaries, we find in particular priests. I don't have any specific explanation for that, but also well-read young people like Vahé himself, and still others who had only an elementary education. And in a word, all indications are that keeping a diary during the catastrophe was a widespread practice, and that Armenians from nearly every social stratum did so. Of course, there was also the dangers. We know, for example, in the example of Grigor Boharian, he's telling that in his diary that one of his classmates who stayed in Aintab after the deportation of Grigor to Syria, and he was keeping also a diary. The house was checked by the police, by the Ottoman police, and they found the diary. And inside the diary there were two entries, dangerous, suspicious entries, and for that reason, for these political and ideological sentences, this young Armenian and his father were sentenced to death. And there is also the example of Yervant Odian, a well-known writer from Istanbul, from Constantinople, and he was deported to Syria, more precisely to Homs. And but it was supposed that he was supposed to be deported further to Derzor. So he stayed in Homs as a fugitive, and he kept diaries, many notebooks. But when the police find his address, and he knows that the police was behind him, so he decided to destroy these notebooks in order not to jeopardize his life further. So the essential question, however, is the way these diaries were ultimately utilized in post-genocide years. Many found it inappropriate to publish their experience as survivors in diary form. Instead, they reworked their diaries and transformed them into autobiography. And as a result, and to borrow Philippe Lejeune's and Catherine Bogart's expression, their writing lost its essential feature, namely the authenticity of the moment. And I will mention here several other examples of Armenian memoirs or based on diaries. For example, Haik Aramian's book is a text of this kind. It is plain that the author based this work on his diary, but that he thoroughly revised the day-to-day entries decades after the events took place, introduced new analysis, and published the whole in the form of a memoir. Although Vahram Dadarian, another person from this time from Çorum, who was deported to present-day Jordan, Man, more precisely, did not go to the same extreme. He too later revised the diary that he began to keep at the age of 15, and thus between